Hello, this is Michael Wojcik with the Rochester City Council update for April 4th, 2016. I got my puppy from Paws and Claws 13 years ago today. She was a lot smaller and a lot more destructive back then, but still hanging in there. So been a lot of fun. So thank you, Paws and Claws. That was pretty awesome. I'm going to talk to you today about affordable housing, good conversation in the Committee of the Whole meeting, Chateau Theater reuse, food trucks, and the Heart of the City Task Force. And I ended up filing an ethical question to the Ethical Practices Board based on something that I didn't like about how the appointments went down on that. So, first and foremost, affordable housing. Obviously, it's been a passion of mine. I've been working on it for about 5 years now, and I would say that we probably got more actually done today than we had in the last 8 years on this topic. I mean, we do a project here and there. We're basically just reacting all the time. And we actually started the process of doing some proactive things today. A little bit about the background. We were supposed to have an affordable housing plan back in November of 2014. We really haven't done anything as a city since then. The public hasn't gotten updates, and I really had to fight to get a date set in stone, to get an update, to get a time on the Committee of the Whole meeting. I mean, we've met to discuss crows twice since I first started asking for an update meeting on affordable housing policy. So needless to say, I think our priorities are really out of whack, and I had to fight staff and some other folks that were trying to push off this meeting again and again, and at some point you have to put your draw a line in the sand and say, no, this is an important topic and we need to discuss it. So we did discuss it today, and we did it in great detail. I was pleased to be joined in the presentation on affordable housing by Warren Hansen and John Ergo from Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. They were both down, kind of providing some technical expertise, reviewing the Maxfield study, cornerstone proposals, and basically some best practices, things that we can do, things that we should be doing to address affordable housing. We also received an update from Cheryl Jacobson of the Olmsted County HRA. She is absolutely fantastic. We are delighted to have her. She told us a little bit about how the levy is set up and structured to work, and how we're going to begin using those funds to create affordable housing projects and just maintain projects that we already have. Then finally, Steve Borkart just did an amazing job with the Rochester Area Foundation. I mean, he was fantastic as well. Kind of went through and talked about the importance of setting up a local fund. Big outcomes. One of the things we tried to leave with, and I'll be writing a whole bunch more on affordable housing as well, but I felt it was very important to not just get an update, but actually take some meaningful actions, and we did take a few meaningful actions, really 3 of them. One, we formally, even though we've been doing it informally, committed the city to working with the Rochester Area Foundation on these ongoing affordable housing um, task force issues, and I've been involved with that as a volunteer for several years as well, and I will continue to be involved in that. Second thing we did is we directed staff, actually at the evening meeting then, to start coming back with some recommendations for changes to the incentive development process to promote affordable housing. I mean, we do so much incredibly stupid stuff in our incentive development process. We actually things that are going to be done anyways, like structured parking and balconies, we're treating that as a purpose to get an incentive, and we're completely leaving affordable housing out of the mix. That was out of date 30 years ago. I don't know what's going on with our incentive development process, but thankfully we've initiated the process of changing that. And then probably the one that I think is the most important is we initiated work to be done with the Cornerstone Partnership on creating an inclusionary zoning policy for the city of Rochester. And this is the one policy thing that's going to make more of a difference than anything else. It is absolutely critical to the future of Rochester that we get this inclusionary housing policy passed. Typically, most communities aim for an inclusionary policy of about 20%, meaning that when a project comes in, the developer is obligated to ensure that 20% of the units included in that development are affordable. And it's happening all over the country. It's been in Minneapolis for a while. A lot of suburban communities are doing it. Minnesota's kind of late to the game. A lot of regions have had this policy for a very long time, but it works. Everywhere it's been done, it works. It doesn't hinder development in any way. That percentage is just fine for developers to work with. We have demonstrated proof that it works in the city of Rochester with a couple of projects that we've done. So I'm really excited to get it going forward. And Cornerstone is kind of the preeminent experts in this field in the nation, and they're going to be the ones that are working with us. Now, just because we had good progress on this today does not mean that this is a done deal. I think it's very important. A lot of you care about affordable housing, and I know that we had folks from Interfaith Hospitality Network, Greater Minnesota Housing Fund, Olmsted County HRA, the County Board, the Rochester Area Foundation, and St. Vincent de Paul Society, all there in support of taking some serious actions on affordable housing. You got to keep up the pressure. You got to keep talking to your city council members, because when push comes to shove, I don't think it's a guarantee that this policy is going to pass. I do think that there are enough votes there to pass this policy, but there are going to be organizations out there, the same ones who always oppose any sort of change in Rochester. They're going to fight very hard not to put this policy in place. And that's going to be a real detriment if that doesn't happen. So please, if you care about the issue of affordable housing, thank your council members who are doing the right thing, and keep the pressure on that they actually put a meaningful 20% inclusionary zoning policy in place. It is the best thing we could do for the city. In fact, in terms of affordable housing, we have ballpark about 3,000 apartment units going up right now. Do the math on that. If we had an inclusionary housing policy, we'd have at least 600 units of affordable housing included in that. Right now, it's close to zero for those projects. There's a few here and there, but there's some other projects that are going up that are separate projects that are affordable. So this is not a done deal, and we're going to need public advocacy to make sure this works, and we're going to need people stepping up and speaking out and writing letters and holding elected officials accountable, and make sure we get this inclusionary zoning piece done correctly. I'm excited from the standpoint that this has a chance to be great progress. I'm also disappointed just from the standpoint, it is a little bit disheartening to see that to lay out what the needs are in the Maxfield study, we need about 4,500 units over the next 5 years. Our most optimistic scenario, we're maybe going to be just a little bit short of 40% of that. And if we don't do the inclusionary zoning and some of these other things, that 40% goes down to 10%, at which point we've truly failed the community. But starting out when your goal is to be 40% of what the need is still a little bit disheartening. Other items, the Chateau Theater, that our RFP is going to be proceeding. There were some folks raised a stink about it, but ultimately I don't think the city wanted us to buy a historic theater and not have a historic theater, so I think we're going to have some credible people responding to do the rehabilitation work, and I think there are some good questions that have been answered, but that is going ahead full speed, and I look forward to having a facility that serves for the benefit of the public forever thereafter. Food trucks were on the agenda tonight. Not surprisingly, a lot of the comments we heard were what you would expect, but my greatest disappointment at this point would be the fact that we've gotten this far, and this is the first time we've actually invited food truck entrepreneurs to talk. And I think we're putting some overly burdensome restrictions on them. Ultimately, the way I described it is that food trucks are the entrepreneurs. They are the startup of the food service industry. There where great ideas come from. Not everyone can afford $3 million to build a brick and mortar restaurant downtown. But, this is an opportunity for them to test some concepts, see if the public embraces them, and maybe become the next great restaurant in Rochester. It's been successful all over the world, and there is no prize for Rochester being the biggest dinosaur. My goal is, if you want to go see a dinosaur right now, go out to Quarry Hill. I hope you don't come to the city council looking for dinosaurs, but sometimes we do act that way. Lastly, this was not on the agenda, so if you were looking, hey, what's going on with the city council this week, you wouldn't have known about this because you didn't get to see it. Rather, at the last minute, we walked on a Heart of the City task force, and so it's a board that's going to direct public policy and public investment. Really big deal in the downtown development community for years going forward, and was really excited to see all the interest in it. We had 95 people that applied. We actually had board recommendations that were fairly diverse by terms of age and race. Once again, women horribly underrepresented, and that is kind of the story of the city of Rochester right now. If you're a woman in the city of Rochester, we care about your views a little bit. And as for the, maybe we didn't get any qualified applicants. Having looked it over, we had some phenomenal applicants who were passed over and the opportunity to serve, including the woman who was responsible for that incredibly successful Midtown Conversations event, Jessie Welch, and another one coming up here shortly. She had applied and she got passed over even though women were horribly underrepresented. In fact, there was there was a new person in the downtown neighborhood association that will be representing neighborhoods, but really neighborhoods are quite a bit underrepresented on this particular body. Um, Now, I did tell the mayor, all that said, I'm okay with 13 out of 14 of the appointees. The 14th one I have a real problem with, and it goes back to I've been on a bit of a tear lately. I don't agree with the level of cronyism in the city of Rochester government, and once again we saw that on full display today. We received this information before the meeting, not in the public packet. By the way, could you please appoint these 14 people tonight? Well, I did my due diligence in the little bit of time I had, and realized that one of these people is actually a paid lobbyist who registered with the state of Minnesota, who is actually paid. Part of his job is to lobby the city council on development-related issues, and he does it frequently. And yet, we are appointing him to a policy-setting board. That is just so completely wrong in my book. You can't have a paid lobbyist sitting on these policy advisory committees for Heart of the City. Now, he's one person out of 14, but my God, you got to have a little bit of integrity in when you're doing these things. So I raised the issue, and basically what I said is I support the 13, I don't support the 14th. Ultimately, Randy Staver was strongly supportive of appointing the paid lobbyist to this particular board. No one else really spoke for or against it, and Nick Campion did at least abstain from the vote. I assume he was probably thinking about it, but it's a real issue for me, and enough so that appointing a paid lobbyist to a board overseeing the very same thing that they're lobbying, probably not illegal, and I don't really know if it's even unethical. Now, my moral compass tells me it's just plain wrong. And it is wrong, and I think anybody with any common sense can see just how wrong it is. But I did at least take the time to ask the question of our Ethical Practices Board, saying, hey, should somebody who is paid to lobby the city on the set of particular issues be appointed to a board setting policy on these particular issues? I don't know how the Ethical Practices Board, I don't know if they're even going to feel this within their jurisdiction, but I at least did my due diligence and asked that question because, hey, I had to ask that question because you, the public, you didn't get a chance to see any of this stuff. This was all kind of hidden from you, and that's really disappointing. So that's kind of what went on this week. I am really excited about the affordable housing stuff, really good progress going on there. But, I always kind of like to see who's walking in and out of City Hall and who goes in to see Pruitt in the back room, because then he can kind of figure out who's running for office. And it was interesting. There's a person who I kind of wondered if he had some interest was showed up for, I don't know, he doesn't normally come to city council meetings, but he was there. And if that's the person that's running, I mean, it's kind of what you would expect. White male, well connected. Kind of sat quietly in the back there and watched. Now, he doesn't currently live in my ward, but I have a funny feeling if he was running, I'd be the person that he was coming after. So we'll wait and see. But based on the number of video views and the fact that somebody's been digging through my website, somebody must be getting ready to announce something. So, but that's why we have elections. If you want the kind of government where, hey, let's put the paid lobbyists in to tell us what our policy is going to be, I'm sure you're going to have that option. I'm sure the special interests are going to fund somebody that's going to run against me, and then it's your call. You can either go with the work that I'm doing for you, or you can hand the city over to the kind of folks that think Mac Hamilton is what the city needs more of. So thank you as always for watching. Thank you for the tremendous support, and I look forward to continuing to advocate, particularly on the affordable housing.